Most people believe strategic thinking means being the smartest person in the room or the most aggressive force in any situation. But that belief is exactly what keeps people stuck. Real strategy has very little to do with intelligence and almost everything to do with restraint. It is not about how fast you move. It is about knowing when not to move at all. Think about the brightest people you know. Chances are, you have watched them react too quickly, speak when silence would have served them better, or pour enormous energy into battles that simply were not worth fighting. Intelligence without strategy is just noise. It creates the illusion of progress, while quietly burning through leverage, relationships, and opportunity. Strategic thinking is not a personality trait or a gift reserved for a select few. It is a discipline. And like any discipline, it begins with a single, deceptively simple shift in how you approach every situation you face. Real strategic thinking does not begin with a brilliant plan or a clever move. It begins the moment you stop reacting automatically. That pause, even a brief one, creates space between what happens to you and what you choose to do next. Most people never find that space because they are moving too fast to look for it. Beneath every conversation, every negotiation, every tense moment, there is a layer most people never reach. Tone carries meaning that words do not say. Pressure reveals what someone is protecting. Silence points toward what no one wants to name. These signals are available to anyone willing to slow down long enough to notice them. The problem is that most people are too occupied defending their ego to observe any of this. When you are busy protecting yourself, you stop seeing clearly. And when you stop seeing clearly, someone else is already reading the room while you are still reacting to it. Think about a conversation you regret. Maybe you said something too quickly, trusted someone before they had earned it, or pushed forward when everything inside you should have said wait. Most people carry at least one moment like that. A relationship that cracked because of words spoken in heat. An opportunity lost because impatience moved faster than judgment. A trust extended too soon to someone who had not yet shown they deserved it. These moments tend to stay with you, not because you were foolish, but because no one ever taught you how to slow your mind when pressure is building and everything around you is demanding an immediate response. That is not a personal failure. It is a gap in how most people are raised to think. Reacting fast gets praised. Staying calm under pressure rarely does. So the habit of rushing becomes normal, and the cost of that habit quietly accumulates over time. Strategic thinkers win not by dominating conversations or controlling others, but by controlling themselves. This distinction changes everything. While most people measure success by how loudly they assert themselves, strategic thinkers measure it by how clearly they understand what is happening before they respond. They see situations before becoming part of them. They step back mentally, observe the full picture, and only then decide where to place themselves within it. This is not hesitation. It is precision. Timing matters more than force. A well-placed word at the right moment carries more weight than an hour of aggressive argument. Clarity matters more than intensity. A calm, focused response lands deeper than an emotional outburst ever could. While others chase quick victories, strategic thinkers pursue lasting ones. They are not interested in winning the moment at the cost of losing the longer game. Self-control is not a limitation. It is their greatest source of power. This audiobook is not about manipulation. It is not a collection of tricks designed to give you an edge over other people. What you are about to work through is something more fundamental and more lasting than that. This is a guide to developing a grounded way of thinking. One that helps you read environments accurately, manage your emotions with intention, and make decisions that hold up not just in the moment, but over days, months, and years. Strategic thinking, as it is presented here, is not about outsmarting anyone. It is about respecting yourself enough to stop reacting carelessly, stop speaking without purpose, and stop making choices driven purely by how you feel in a single moment. Every principle in this audiobook points toward the same outcome. A version of you that moves with clarity, acts with intention, and builds something that lasts. That is what real strategy looks like. Chapter 1. The Reflex Trap. Most people move through life on reflex. Something happens, and they respond. Someone speaks, and they answer. A problem appears, and they act. It feels productive. It feels decisive. It feels like momentum. But reflex is not strategy. Reacting quickly gives the impression of control while quietly destroying the very leverage that creates it. Strategic thinkers do not rush to be first. They do not confuse speed with intelligence or urgency with importance. They understand that the fastest response is rarely the most powerful one. Their first move is almost always to observe. Not because they are uncertain, not because they are slow, but because they know something most people never learn. The situation in front of you is rarely the whole situation. There is always more happening beneath the surface, and you cannot see beneath the surface when you are already reacting to what is visible. Think about what happens the moment you react. You hand over information freely. Your tone reveals frustration. Your speed reveals anxiety. Your words reveal exactly what you were hoping to protect. Reacting instantly is essentially announcing your emotional state to anyone paying attention, and strategic people are always paying attention. When you react, you show what matters to you. You expose where pressure lands hardest. You reveal the gaps in your composure. And once that information is out, it cannot be taken back. Reactive people consistently feel one step behind, not because they are less intelligent, but because they are always responding rather than understanding. They are answering questions the situation is asking instead of asking better questions themselves. Observation flips this entirely. Instead of broadcasting, you are receiving. Instead of revealing, you are learning. Every moment you stay quiet and attentive, you are collecting something the reactive person already gave away without realizing it. Observation is not passive. It is not hesitation dressed up as patience. It is active, deliberate awareness that requires full mental engagement. When you observe, you are working. You are collecting information, testing assumptions, and mapping the situation before committing to a direction. Strategic thinkers understand a fundamental truth. The moment you react, you have entered the game on someone else's terms. You are no longer setting the pace. You are responding to it. And once you are responding, you are already behind. This is why so many problems escalate unnecessarily. Someone speaks too soon. A misunderstanding surfaces, and instead of letting it settle, someone reacts immediately, adding heat to something that needed air. What could have dissolved in silence becomes a permanent fracture. Words spoken in reaction rarely reflect what you actually mean. They reflect what you feel in that moment. And moments pass, but words remain. The person who reacts last often holds the most power in any situation. While others rush to respond, strategic thinkers pause and ask a different question entirely. Instead of asking how to respond, they ask what they are actually seeing. This shift changes everything. They are not watching a situation to prepare a comeback. They are watching to understand it. They look for patterns across time, not just in the moment. They pay close attention to timing, noticing when something is said just as carefully as what is said. Tone carries meaning that words often disguise. They also notice the details most people overlook. Who speaks first? Who interrupts and when? Who stays completely quiet and why? These observations reveal the real structure of any room, conversation, or conflict. Words can be chosen carefully and delivered with intention. But behavior, timing, and silence are far harder to control. That is exactly where the truth lives. Chapter 2 begins with a truth most people resist. Strategic thinking cannot survive emotional takeover. It does not matter how intelligent someone is, how much experience they carry, or how clearly they understood a situation moments before. The instant emotion takes command, strategy exits the room. This is not a flaw unique to certain people. It is human. Emotions are fast, loud, and convincing. They feel like clarity when they are actually interference. Here is the critical distinction. Emotion is data. Anger tells you something was violated. Fear signals perceived threat. Frustration points to blocked expectations. These signals carry real information worth examining. But data and command are entirely different things. When emotion shifts from signal to instruction, impulse replaces judgment. Decisions made from that place are almost always short-sighted, reactive, and costly. They solve the feeling, not the problem. Strategic thinking requires recognizing that difference before acting. Understanding emotional control means releasing the idea that strength requires numbness. Strategic thinkers do not shut down their emotions or pretend difficult situations feel neutral. They feel frustration, disappointment, and anger just like everyone else. The difference is what they do next. Rather than acting the moment emotion arrives, they create space between the feeling and the response. They recognize that emotional intensity is temporary, and that decisions made at peak intensity rarely reflect what they actually want. This delay is not weakness. It is discipline. When the emotional wave settles, the mind becomes clearer. Options that were invisible during the heat of the moment begin to surface. Paths that seemed blocked reveal themselves. A reactive mind narrows its focus to what hurts right now. A calm mind expands its view to what matters long term. Strategic thinkers trust this process, choosing to wait not because they are indifferent, but because they respect the weight of their own decisions. Chapter 3 shifts focus to something most people skip entirely. Reading a situation before acting. Many people assume that if they know what they want to do, they should simply do it. But the same action taken in two different moments can produce completely opposite results. Timing and context change everything. Strategic thinkers do not just ask what to do, they ask what is actually happening. Before making any move, they examine the environment beneath the surface. Who holds the power in this moment? What emotional pressure is present? What incentives are unspoken but clearly driving behavior? Who has leverage, and who is pretending they do? Most people never ask these questions. They walk into situations seeing only what is visible and react to the surface while missing the structure underneath. Strategic thinkers treat every situation like a landscape to be read before it is entered, because understanding the terrain determines whether any move succeeds at all. Chapter 4 explores one of the most misunderstood forms of power available to anyone, the ability to speak less and mean more. Most people treat conversation as a performance. They rush to explain themselves, defend their position, or fill silence with words that serve no real purpose. It feels productive. It feels like participation. But in reality, it is exposure. Every word you speak is information. It reveals what you value, what you fear, what you are trying to protect, and where your attention lives. Strategic thinkers understand this deeply. They do not speak to relieve discomfort. They do not speak to assert dominance or signal intelligence. They speak when words serve a specific, deliberate purpose, and they stay quiet when words would only satisfy the ego. In a world where everyone is rushing to be heard, restraint becomes a quiet and formidable kind of power that most people never develop. Silence is not emptiness. It is pressure applied without effort, and strategic thinkers understand this completely. When you stay quiet where a reaction is expected, something shifts. The other person becomes uncertain. They begin filling the space with words, explanations, and sometimes admissions they never planned to share. Silence creates a kind of gravity that pulls information forward without you asking a single question. Most people treat silence as awkward and rush to end it. Strategic thinkers treat it as a tool. They let it sit. They let it work. There is another dimension to this. When you are not preparing your next response, you are actually listening. Full listening is rare. Most conversations are two people waiting for their turn to speak. The person who truly listens catches what others miss. The hesitation, the contradiction, the unspoken concern hiding beneath polished words. Silence reveals what noise conceals. Chapter 5 draws a sharp line between two fundamentally different ways of making decisions. Short-term thinking is emotional at its core. It seeks relief, comfort, and the satisfaction of feeling like something was resolved right now. Long-term thinking operates differently. It is guided by direction rather than feeling, by where you are heading, rather than how you feel in this moment. Strategic thinkers understand that every decision carries a hidden cost. When you choose immediate gratification, you are often borrowing against your future position. The win feels real, but the price arrives later. Tolerating temporary discomfort is not weakness. It is evidence of clarity. Strategic thinkers are not focused on being seen making progress. They are focused on actually making it. Trajectory matters more than visibility. Where you are going matters more than how impressive the current moment appears to those watching. Chapter 6 introduces one of the most misunderstood principles in strategic thinking: detachment. Many people hear the word and assume it means coldness, indifference, or simply not caring. But strategic detachment is something far more deliberate. It means choosing carefully where your energy goes, rather than letting the world decide for you. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every disagreement deserves your time. Not every problem that appears urgent actually belongs to you. Yet most people treat every situation as equally worthy of reaction, spreading their focus thin and arriving at important moments already drained. Strategic thinkers understand that energy is finite. When you react to everything, you give everything power over you. The person who criticizes you casually now controls your afternoon. The minor conflict that could dissolve on its own now consumes your focus for days. Detachment is not withdrawal. It is selection. It is deciding, with full awareness, where your attention creates value and where it simply creates noise. Most people treat patience as waiting helplessly, enduring discomfort while the world moves without them. Chapter 7 completely reframes that understanding. Patience is not hesitation. It is not weakness dressed in quiet clothing. It is one of the most powerful tools a strategic thinker carries. The person who can genuinely wait often controls the direction of events without appearing to control anything at all. While others rush toward resolution, the patient thinker holds position, gathers information, and lets circumstances develop naturally. Patience creates imbalance. When someone expects urgency and receives stillness instead, they begin to question themselves. Patience also exposes authenticity, because people cannot maintain false versions of themselves indefinitely. Given enough time, real intentions surface. It protects against manipulation by removing the pressure that manipulators depend on. Most manipulative tactics require quick decisions. Patience dissolves that pressure entirely. Most importantly, patience allows time to surface information that premature action would have permanently buried. Chapter 8 shifts the focus to something most people never consider: the power of finishing without fanfare. Strategic thinkers do not announce their plans. They do not broadcast their intentions or seek applause before the work is done. They understand that attention, even positive attention, invites interference. When people know what you are building, opinions multiply, doubt creeps in, and energy gets redirected toward managing perception rather than producing results. There is also no dependence on external validation here. Strategic thinkers are not waiting for someone to confirm they are on the right path. They care more about completing the work than being noticed for attempting it. This is a quiet but profound shift in motivation. Consistent outcomes eventually speak louder than any explanation ever could. When results appear repeatedly, no announcement is necessary. The work becomes its own argument, and that kind of credibility cannot be manufactured or rushed. Everything covered in this audiobook points to one truth. Strategic thinking is not a personality trait you are born with or a gift reserved for exceptional minds. It is a learnable way of moving through life, available to anyone willing to practice it with patience and honesty. The pattern throughout has been consistent. Those who stay ahead slow down when others rush. They stay calm when emotions rise around them. They choose actions with intention rather than impulse, and they protect their energy by deciding what deserves their attention and what simply does not. None of this requires superiority. It requires awareness. It requires the willingness to pause before reacting, to observe before concluding, and to trust that clarity is worth waiting for. Strategy does not begin with a grand decision or a defining moment. It begins the instant you stop letting the world decide your pace and start deciding it yourself. Strategy lives in small moments. The pause before responding. The choice to wait when everything inside you wants to move. The decision to stay silent when words would only satisfy your ego and cost you everything else. These moments do not feel dramatic. They rarely get noticed. But they are where real advantage is built, and where most people quietly lose ground without ever understanding why. In a world addicted to speed and noise, calm has become genuinely rare. And rarity creates advantage. The person who can slow down while everyone else accelerates holds a kind of power that cannot be taken by force or argued away. Winning quietly, consistently, and without announcement is not weakness. It is the highest form of strategic discipline. You do not need to be the loudest voice or the fastest mind. You need to be the most intentional one. That is where lasting impact begins, and that is where it stays.